Machines don't care about mercy. They don't care about treaties, about honor, about pride. They only calculate. They only destroy. And against them, the galaxy had thrown everything until everything broke. What remained wasn't the strongest soldier or the wisest admiral or the bravest hero. What remained was a single human and a box of broken tools. If you are new here, take a moment to like and subscribe for more epic tales. Let's continue. The battlefield over Orpheus 9 was silent, but only because everything that had screamed was already dead. The Coalition fleet hung in orbit like a carcass. Hundreds of warships, sleek Ardanian cruisers, towering Valith dreadnoughts, insectile Drekken carriers, were all reduced to drifting hulks, their hulls torn, their power systems fried. Fires burned through compartments, venting air into space. Escape pods dotted the void like scattered seeds, waiting for rescue that would never come. And beyond them, the machine swarm waited. They were called the Null. Not a species, not even a civilization. Just machines. Ancient, silent, merciless. They didn't speak, they didn't negotiate, they didn't relent. When they emerged from their long, dormant fortress worlds in the dark reaches of the Perseus Arm, they struck like a storm that didn't stop. The Coalition had thrown 5 fleets against them. This was what was left of the 5th. On board the Ardanian flagship Radiance Eternal, Admiral Zor-Kai tried to move his mandibles despite the pain of a cracked exoskeletal plate. His command deck was a ruin, his crew dead or dying. Consoles sparked. The great holo display that once projected a map of the fleet's formation was now a web of red markers. Lost, destroyed, annihilated. "We cannot restore the hyperdrive," his chief engineer croaked. "The Null's pulses burned out our stabilizers. The systems are irreparable." "Everything is reparable," Zor-Kai rasped. "Everything." But the silence that followed told him even his crew no longer believed. And then came the voice. Sir?" It was halting, in broken Ardanian. A voice that seemed strangely casual against the backdrop of despair. The Admiral turned his multifaceted eyes and found the source. A human. The Terran was crouched over a scorched panel, grease smeared across his jaw, his hands blackened from smoke. His uniform wasn't military. It was the patched gray of a civilian technician. He looked small among the towering Ardanians, his build unimpressive, his tools primitive. The Admiral blinked. "The Terran engineer." "Technically, I'm not even an engineer," the human said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Shipyard apprentice. But your people grabbed me on Proxima Station when this whole Grand Alliance started. Figured I could keep busy fixing conduits." He gestured at the ruined control panel. "And now it looks like I'm the last guy left with a wrench." Zor-Kai's mandibles clicked in bitter amusement. "A wrench will not repair a hyperdrive shattered by the Null." "Maybe not," the human admitted. His name was Aaron Holt, 26 years old, drafted into a war he'd never volunteered for. "But you don't need me to repair it. You need me to make it work." The Admiral stared. "There is no difference." Aaron smirked faintly, a flash of stubborn Terran defiance. "There's a big difference." The Coalition engineers had given up. They stared in mute horror as Aaron tore into their prized hyperdrive core with nothing but a pry bar and a makeshift torch. He ripped out circuits worth more than entire Terran cities and replaced them with scavenged power regulators from the ship's kitchens. "You are desecrating technology that has endured for centuries," one Drekken technician hissed. "Yeah," Aaron muttered, elbow deep in wires, "and it's broken. So shut up and hand me that coolant pipe." He worked like a mechanic on a busted tractor rather than the savior of a galactic fleet. His workspace became chaos, stripped insulation, repurposed life support tubes, cannibalized consoles from navigation. He didn't follow schematics. He followed instinct. Aliens watched in revulsion. Ardanians prided themselves on precision. Draken prided themselves on order. Valith prided themselves on elegance. This human was butchering all of it. But for the first time in days, sparks gave way to hums. Systems flickered back to life. "Impossible," whispered the Ardanian chief engineer, mandibles quivering. Aaron shrugged. "Not impossible, just ugly." Hours bled into days. Outside, the gnolls swarmed, their vast armadas lingering at the edge of sensor range, patient as predators. They weren't attacking because they didn't need to. The Coalition fleet was crippled. All they had to do was wait until the survivors suffocated. Inside, Aaron built madness. He rerouted plasma vents into propulsion systems. He stripped down food synthesizers to construct circuit stabilizers. He used medical scanners as navigation relays. He welded pieces of scrap plating over shattered coolant lines, then pumped frozen oxygen through them because duct tape solves everything. And somehow, impossibly, the flagship moved. It wasn't pretty. It groaned like a dying beast. Every second, it threatened to explode under its own jury-rigged systems. But the moment its engines flared, hope rippled across the shattered fleet. If one ship could move, maybe they all could. The aliens tried to stop him. "This is reckless," cried the Draken quartermaster. "This is an insult to engineering," hissed the Ardanian technicians. "This is blasphemy," murmured the Valith priests of design. But the admiral silenced them. "Let him work," Zorkai commanded. "Let the Terran do what none of us can." Aaron worked himself to collapse. He barely slept. He barely ate. His hands blistered and his eyes stung from the constant glare of welding arcs. But he kept moving because he remembered the POW broadcasts from Earth, the faces of human soldiers executed by the Null's allies. He remembered that no one else was coming. "If I stop, we die," he muttered to himself, slamming a stripped panel back into place. "So I don't stop." When he finally connected the last of the jury-rigged conduits, he whispered to the dead ship, "Come on, girl, one more ride." And the Radiance Eternal roared. The Null advanced the moment they detected movement. Their drones surged in mechanical swarms, silent, merciless. The crippled Coalition fleet shuddered under their approach. But Aaron's chaos gave them teeth again. Engines spat fire where coolant should have been. Cannons powered by kitchen fuel cells stuttered and then burned bright. Targeting systems patched through medical scanners locked onto enemies with eerie precision. The fleet, once broken, became unpredictable. Their tactics no longer matched any Coalition doctrine. The Null, built to calculate and anticipate, faltered. Human improvisation had introduced what machines feared most: uncertainty. The battle was madness. The Radiance Eternal, limping on makeshift engines, plunged headlong into Null formations, its jury-rigged cannons blasting drones into molten shards. Coalition ships, copying Aaron's insane fixes, fired weapons powered by systems never meant for war. Fleets that should have been corpses screamed with defiance instead. For the first time, the Null retreated, not because they couldn't win, but because they couldn't predict. When the smoke cleared, the fleet still lived. Barely. The ships were half ruins, their systems ticking like bombs, but they lived. And as word spread across the galaxy, so did a name. Not Admiral Zorkai, not the Coalition Council, not even the Radiance Eternal. The name that spread was Aaron Holt, the last engineer. Years later, alien academies would study the battle. They would teach the doctrine of improvisation, of adaptation, of embracing chaos. They would point to human stubbornness as the key to survival against the Null. And when Aaron Holt was asked how he did it, he only shrugged. Things break. You fix them. That's all. But everyone knew it wasn't all. It was humanity. The galaxy saw brilliance in its machines, perfection in its empires, and order in its fleets. But when perfection failed, It was a human with grease on his hands who stood between life and extinction. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was chosen, but because he refused to quit. If this story spoke to you, subscribe, share it, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice keeps these stories alive.